Hello everyone, it is I, Chastity White Rose, and as you will see, I am starting out this stream with a square cropped version of the progress flag. Now the progress flag is a very interesting symbol. It's a symbol of diversity, of people who are different, and there's all kinds of things. There's the rainbow, there's the colors of the trans flag, um, that are, the pink and the blue and the white are the colors of the trans flag. There's the rainbow, which is often used as a gay symbol, black and brown to represent people of color. And the reason I feel like this is included is because it's the progress flag. That we've made progress as a society. We're trying to make progress as a society to accept people who are different. That means no racism, no homophobia, transphobia. And also the progress flag includes the intersex flag as part of it. The yellow triangle with the purple circle is the intersex portion of this flag. Now, I want to be talking more about the intersex part later on. Now, however, this my Twitch channel is mostly about chess. That's what this is mostly about. But I actually have a chess themed topic for you today, and that is why this image is here. Now, with that being said, I'm going to take that square away, and I'm going to show you who I am here. I'm going to show you who I am, and I know I'm weird looking, but it's okay to be weird because I'm going to be talking about things that are weird. And the title is The Queer's Gambit. Now, the Queer's Gambit is a phrase that other people have said something about the Queer's Gambit before. But let me explain the Queer's Gambit, because the Queer's Gambit is a joke that you will only get if you're a chess player. Because if you are a chess player like I am, you will know that the Queen's Gambit is a chess opening. And you will also probably guess that queer is a word that means weird. And it's only one letter off from queen. So the fact that it's only one letter off, that makes it a perfect topic for a chess video. This is interesting. So the reason that the opening is called the Queen's Gambit is because a gambit is a sacrifice, where you sacrifice a pawn in order to gain an advantage in a game. And I'm going to be showing you a game as an example of that. In fact, I'm going to be showing you a very special game. But first we need to define what is queer, because a lot of people are asking, well, what is queer? Well, that's what I'm going to get into today. I'm going to talk about what it means to be queer, what it means to me specifically, and also how it relates to the game of chess. And my glasses fall off, unfortunately. I have this big fat head. So my glasses tend to fall off, and I need to put them back on sometimes because I need to see what I'm looking at. Excuse my messy hair. My hair is always a mess. So I'm going to be switching to desktop, and you'll be seeing what's on my screen here. So I'm going to go here, and I did define queer. And the first definition here is strange or odd. So strange, odd, weird, something unusual. Strange and unusual. In fact, similar and opposite words. So strange, odd, weird is listed in the similar words. So odd, strange, unusual, funny, peculiar, curious, bizarre, weird, outlandish. So by any stretch of the imagination, by definition one, I am queer. I am queer beyond all belief because I'm weird and I'm funny and I'm odd and I'm bizarre. I'm peculiar. I'm so many things about me are queer. But that's only the first definition of queer. The second definition here, which is listed here, is denoting or relating to a sexual or gender identity that does not correspond to established ideas of sexuality and gender, especially heterosexual norms. It has an example sentence. Queer geek culture has featured gay themes since the 1980s. Nightclubs have traditionally been a space where queer people, trans women in particular, can explore gender with relative safety. And it also mentions offensive of a person, homosexual. So you have to understand that it also has been used synonymously with a homosexual or a gay man. So the word queer has a complicated history. It has a queer history, we'll just say. So in talking about things that are queer, I think it's important to explain this, because denoting or relating to a sexual or gender identity that does not correspond to established ideas of sexuality and gender, especially heterosexual norms. Okay, now with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back and I'm going to show the progress flag image as I talk about this, okay? So, if you are somebody who is, let's just say, not cis straight, you might be gay, or you might be transgender, or bisexual, or intersex, which a lot of people still don't know what intersex is, then you would be defined as queer. Queer is kind of an umbrella term where it just means that you are not cis straight regular, you're not normal, you're not like other people, you're weird. And there's nothing wrong with being weird. And I feel like that's literally what the modern definition of queer means, is that you are weird in some way related to gender or sexuality. Now, this is certainly true of me and many other people. And people have noticed that I have been using the progress flag for a little bit on all my social media. And part of the reason I do this is because of the fact that I want people to know that I'm one of them. I'm one of the rainbow people. I find it extremely important to let people know that. Because when people know that I am one of those people, there are two common responses I get. One response I get is from other rainbow people, people who they can tell that I am one of them. They don't know what I am, but they see the progress flag on my profile of whatever social media I'm using, and they know, well, this person's, they've got to be gay or trans or queer or something. And that's the purpose, that's the intention behind the progress flag. I want people to know that. And you may wonder, why do you want people to know about this? And usually those people are the haters. Those are the people who hate people, and they're the homophobes and the transphobes. Now keep in mind, what the word homophobe means. Oh, we have Femboy Altus just followed. Well, thank you for the follow, Femboy Altus. That is so sweet. Thank you. Because, yeah, obviously they saw the progress flag and they responded to this. Yeah, so I was explaining about a homophobe literally would mean someone who's afraid of a gay person, or a transphobe would mean literally somebody who is afraid of a trans person. Now, keep in mind, not all people are afraid of gay or trans people, and some of them just actually hate them. And unfortunately, there has become a trend to refer to, oh, yes, we have a comment. And I don't know what that emoji means, but yeah, so people have been calling somebody homophobe or transphobe, and they use that to mean that they hate them. But that's not necessarily what it means. There are people who don't hate trans or gay people. They don't hate LGBT people. However, they are afraid because they just don't understand. And my purpose, one of my purposes that I try to keep in mind with anything I'm doing, whether I'm playing chess. Well, thank you for all the lovely emoji comments, fanboy. That's so nice. Um, but my purpose is to educate people so that they are not afraid. I don't want people to be afraid of me or others like me. So you have to understand that that's one of my things that I do is I educate people about queer issues, and queer being an umbrella term. I can explain things that are gay and transgender and there's a lot of things that I can explain as a person who is LGBTQIA, who is gay, who is trans. I am that kind of person. I am one of those people who I call the rainbow people. And this progress flag is my personal symbol of that. Because there are some things that people don't understand. Yes, I am trans. I am actually a trans woman, so technically, sir is not correct. But the problem, you see, is that I'm so ugly that I don't pass as female, and that's one of the struggles. That's one of the things that makes me sad. No, that's okay. You didn't know, and we all try to be respectful of people's preferences. And see, that's the thing about it is I am in a good place with my job right now, at least, because the people know they call me Chastity. They refer to me as she or her and ma'am and stuff like that. The people who I work with at Walmart have been very respectful. They've been just wonderful. Shout out to all of them. They're just wonderful. Because I know that I don't look female according to traditional Western beauty standards, and that's to be expected because I did go through male puberty, so my voice and my appearance looks sort of masculine. That's the thing about it. And that's something I have to deal with for my whole life. I have to deal with the fact that I will never be as pretty as those who were born with a female body. I will never look to the outside world the way that I, feel like I am inside. And okay, we have a new comment. Do you only dress like a woman, or did you have operations, ma'am? Well, actually, I did have an operation, and it's kind of an interesting story. I had an orchiectomy. And I've been on estrogen for about 3 years, actually. It has been over 3 years at this point that I've been on estrogen. And so I, because I had an orchiectomy, that means surgical removal of the testicles. And because I have been on estrogen, my body has changed quite a bit. But one thing I try to explain to people that the body is not the most important thing because it's who you are, the personality of a person. That's more important. That's far more important. And I am happier with my body now because even though there's not much I can do about the fact that I will always look somewhat male, even though my appearance has changed, the thing is, I have decided to let people know that I'm transgender, even though I can't pass, at least at this point. But it's about the kind of person that I feel like I am, okay? And we are often criticized. Trans people are often criticized and said, you can't even define what a woman is. And my response is, yes, I can. You just don't accept my definition. Because the problem is when people define a man or a woman, they use different standards. Because when somebody defines, no, it's estrogen is what I take. I take estrogen, but since I had testosterone back during puberty, I went through male puberty, and now I am 36 years old. And in fact, this coming May 15, I turn 37. And so it's interesting. But anyway, the thing is, when people think of a man, they think, because people talk about what is a man, they try to mention character attributes like, well, a real man protects and provides for his family. That's what they say a man is. A man is brave and all this stuff. But when somebody tries to define what a woman is, they define a woman by their body parts, and they mention that they have ovaries and uterus, and that they can reproduce and give birth to children. So the problem is there's a double standard. They define men by what they can do and what kind of person they are, whereas they define a woman by what body parts she has. And I think this is wrong. I think this is wrong because they're using a double standard, a totally different standard. And when I talk about identifying as a woman, what I mean is I want to be the kind of person like my mother, because my mother loves me and she raised me as a single parent. She raised me as a single mother, and she had to play the role of both a mother and a father. She had to be a woman and a man because my father was absent. So that's the important thing to understand, is that my mother was the man. So my mother took care of me the way that traditionally women do. And traditionally, yeah, women give birth to their children and they raise them. It's usually the woman who does more of the work. But she also had to be like a father the best she could, because there was no biological man. There was no father in the picture for most of my life. And so the thing is, like, some people growing up, like boys who go through puberty are going to talk to their father about things, and their father will give them a sex talk about sex and all sorts of stuff, that. But I didn't have a father, so my mother actually was the one who talked to me about everything. You know what I'm saying? So when I talk about a mother or a father, or I talk about a a man or woman, I'm talking about the role they play. Talking about the role they play. And I want to give a really good example of this. There's a person I know. Who I talked with recently in a podcast. And this person, like me, is sort of queer in a very different way. They are actually intersex. And the thing is, they had mentioned wanting to be a traditional wife. Like they wanted to be a stay-at-home mom who homeschools children, raises children, and does the traditional role of the woman in the household. And I thought that's interesting that they are intersex. Technically, they don't meet the definitions for a biological man or woman exactly. And there's so much that could be said about intersex people. But they have chosen a role that, they've chosen a role that is, traditionally female. But let's keep in mind that that's a role. And when I'm talking about gender identity, I'm talking about things like gender roles, that the role that people play in society. And so you could reverse the sex of people. You could have a straight married couple, for example, and it could actually be the dad that stays home and raises the kids, while the biological mother goes out and works the job. That's possible. It happens sometimes. It's very rare. But the reason it's rare is partly because men just don't take responsibility for their children. I mean, hey, look at my own father as an example. So that's the point, is that just because you are a certain biological sex doesn't mean that you have to take on that gender role for the rest of your life. And the queer message, if I had to define the queer message or the LGBTQIA message, it's that you can still decide to be the person that you want to be, regardless of your chromosomes or what body parts you were born with. It's about who do you want to be? Who are you? Not what physical parts do you have. Because I believe that who we are is separate from the parts that we were born with. As a transgender person, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that when I identify as a woman, I'm not saying that I was born with ovaries, because I wasn't. I'm not saying I was born with a vagina, because I wasn't. I'm not saying I can give birth to children, because I can't, and I know that. I never once have I lied or pretended that I was born a biological female, according to the narrow definition that the transphobes tend to use. But I was never talking about that. Never once was I talking about biological sex. I'm talking about gender. Gender and sex are completely different things. I know that they are used interchangeably in certain cases, and I used to use them interchangeably. But they are different. And part of the reason they are different is that sex refers to whether you are male or female biologically in your chromosomes and stuff like that. But then gender is really how you see yourself and the role that you play in your life. And part of the confusion is that sex is not only a noun, but it's also a verb. And sex refers to something that people do that often causes people to procreate. So that's what I'm going to say about that. So here's the thing that's important to understand. A person like me who is transgender, who is very queer in so many ways, it doesn't actually matter whether or not I am capable of reproduction. That doesn't matter at all, not one bit, because that's not something that I would do anyway. That's not something that I would do. And I just kind of want to explain that. First of all, let's be real. I'm too gay to function. I'm totally too gay to function. And the fact of the matter is, it's taken me well over 30 years of my life to really realize this. In fact, some of this I didn't even figure out until like 35, 36. But now I understand. Now I totally understand that I'm not generally attracted to people who are presenting female. I'm actually not. It's very, very strange. And sometimes I'm attracted to men. It's very weird. And the thing is, I'm just going to go with queer because this is the queer's gambit that I'm talking about. So I'm different. I'm very different, and I am not a heterosexual. I don't even know if I could be described as homosexual, because here's the problem is, when people think of a heterosexual, they think of somebody who's having sex with someone of the opposite sex. When people hear the word homosexual, they think about somebody having sex with someone of the same sex. And well, how does that work? Because then you have to define what is sex and like, what does it mean? And even defining something like that is very tricky because everybody has a different definition of what is considered sexual or isn't. And I'm not concerned with that, because here's the thing is, I can know when I'm romantically attracted to someone. I can feel that, I feel like, but I'm also asexual at the same time. That's where it's weird. It's that's where it's queer, is, as I've said before, it's where you're gay as fuck, but you don't want to fuck. It's a really weird mental place to be in. It's really hard to explain. But I try to explain these things because you have to understand that in less than a week, I turned 37 years old, and I'm still figuring things out. I'm still figuring out who I am and what I want. But as I promised, this is going to be chess related because I'm getting ahead of myself. There's so much I could say, but let me get to my final point for this portion of the video. The queer's gambit is the pawn that you sacrifice in order to be your true self. And that sacrifice looks different for every person. A person may sacrifice their friends, their family, or their job because your family could disown you if they find out you're gay or trans, or you could even lose your job if somebody finds out you're trans or something like that. That happens. People are fired from their jobs. They are kicked out of their families for these things. And you may wonder, why is it such a big deal? Why does anybody care if they are their son or daughter is their child is gay? Why do they care if they're transgender? And that's a big topic. That's a whole nother discussion itself. But I think religion is mostly what's behind it. They don't understand. They think their child is living in sin, and they think that by supporting them that they are sinning. So it's complicated. Religion plays a lot into it, depending on what your religion is. But that's the thing about it is something I've been researching for the past few years is gay Christians and transgender Christians. And I bought quite a few audiobooks on Audible, and I was listening to all these gay Christians, people who are Christians, and they're taught that being gay is a sin, but at the same time, they find out they are gay. And that's an interesting situation to be in, because if you are gay, and you are a Christian who happens to believe that being gay is against God's will, that it's a sin, well, then you have a choice to make. Do you come out or not? Do you let anyone know, or do you try to pretend? Because let's be real, a gay man can marry a woman. They can have a heterosexual marriage. And a gay woman, also called a lesbian, can still choose to marry a man, even if they're not attracted to them. Oh, yeah, and we have a new comment. If they are bi or pan. Yes, and if they're bi or pan, well, then they have a lot of options. And, the bisexual, pansexual distinction is kind of hard for me because I kind of view them as the same thing. Some people differentiate them. But some people are attracted to both men and women. And some people are, everyone has a type, and I have a type too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They said I am bi, but I don't know what the difference is. Well, here's the thing. Some people use bisexual as a way of saying they're attracted to both men and women, whereas some people say they are that they are pansexual, and they mean that they are attracted to not just male and female, but the state in between. People who are, they might be transgender, so they're not strictly male or female. They might be intersex. And I think that what I actually am, if I understand the terminology correctly, we have what's intersex, they asked. Okay, I'm going to explain this. So, first of all, intersex is where you have a mix of different attributes. For example, some people are born with more than one set of genitals. Some people have a unique condition, and there's a person I know that when the doctors told them they were going to give birth to a boy, but then the baby turned out looking female, and was, given a female name. And it turned out they were expecting, based on XY chromosomes, to have a boy, but it turned out looking like a girl when it was born. When they were born, that's the correct term. In fact, I feel like they is the only pronoun to describe somebody who's intersex, where they may have a different chromosome situation, or they may have a different hormone level situation. For example, Klinefelter syndrome is where somebody it has XXY chromosomes, where they have two X's and a Y chromosome, and they have an extra chromosome. Most people have two sex chromosomes. They just have either two X's, or they have an X and a Y. So Klinefelter syndrome is one type of intersex condition. That's the kind that I may have. I don't know, because I've never been able to afford to get my chromosomes tested. But the thing is, now omnisexual, my commenter asked, what's omnisexual? I actually don't know what omnisexual means, but I would assume it's the same as pansexual. That's all I can guess. That'd be my best guess, so don't quote me on that. But the thing is, there are documentaries, there are things to read about intersex. So like, if you look up intersex on Wikipedia, you will find a list of conditions, different chromosomes, and hormonal situations. So sometimes people, they are, in the case of my friend, they looked female when they were born because they had a vagina, but it was discovered later on that they had testicles on the inside. So the thing is, you have to understand that the ovaries and the testicles start out the same way, because the default state of our biological bodies is looks female at a certain stage of development in the womb. And based on chromosomes and hormone levels, people's bodies gradually change before they're born into looking male or female. Now, keep in mind, I am no expert on this. I'm not an expert. I'm not a biologist or a scientist. But believe me, I read a lot and I watch a lot of videos, and I'm giving you the best definitions based on my understanding of the topic. And so there are many different intersex conditions, because the simple fact of the matter is, I don't even know my own chromosomes. I don't know my biological sex, if biological sex is defined by chromosomes. So I don't know. I only can know what I look like and how I feel inside emotionally. And so that's the thing that's important, is to understand, that there are people who are intersex. I is for intersex, represented by the yellow triangle and purple circle. That's the intersex part of the flag. So there are people who are intersex, and this is what's interesting about it, is that they may look like a mix of male and female, or they may look like one or the other, but they may be infertile. So the person I'm talking about, I'm trying to be as respectful as I can, but I'm just using them as an example to explain that intersex conditions exist. Intersex conditions exist, and this person, they look like a woman. Okay, they look like a woman to most people, but they don't have uterus or ovaries or womb. They cannot give birth to children. So they basically are a woman, look like a woman who happened to be born without the ability to reproduce. So intersex people, typically, some of them may reproduce and some of them don't, but they're less likely, depending on the condition, to be able to reproduce. But you know what? Being able to reproduce biologically, being able to procreate is really not the most important thing in life. After all, there are children who need to be adopted in this world. There's people who need to be adopted, who children already born who their parents, for whatever reason, can't or won't raise them or take care of them. Their parents could be dead, or who knows what the situation may be. But there's people who need to be adopted and fostered. And so here's what I believe: is I believe that you know, LGBT people, the rainbow people, the gay and the intersex and the transgender people, that they are the people most qualified to adopt the children who need adopting. Now, the reason I say that they are the most qualified is partly because the straight people are too busy procreating. They keep producing kids, or they keep aborting the ones that they have reproduced, or they're the ones giving them up for adoption. So what I'm saying is, hear me out on this, guys. Let the gays adopt the children that the straight people didn't want. And I will debate this point. If anybody wants to debate me on this point about whether gay people should be allowed to adopt, send them my way, seriously, because gay people should be allowed to adopt. They totally should. And intersex and transgender people, the queers should be allowed to adopt. And there are some places that won't let the queers adopt, and they won't even let those people be near their children, because they think that gay and trans people or intersex people are just some kind of freak of nature. They think they're dangerous. And no, we're not dangerous. Now, some of us are, because there's different types of people. And I'm not saying that all LGBTQIA people are safe to be around, but you can't just make a blanket assumption and think that we're all a danger to your children. You can't make that assumption. But that's the point: is each parent decides what's right for their children. Whether they're right or wrong is beside the point. But the straight people, they either raise their kids, or they abort them, or they give them up for adoption. So I didn't mean to go on this long of a rant. I really didn't. But it's important, because the person that I mentioned, the intersex person I was talking about, their name is Anastasia, and they are a friend. They are a really wonderful person. And I recently did a podcast with them. And you can find it on my Instagram, my YouTube and Facebook. You can find that there. We actually did a talk. We did a Zoom recording that went about an hour and a half long. We talked about so many wonderful things. We totally did. We talked about some great things. And when they talked about how they wanted to adopt children and homeschool them, I thought, wow, that's so cool, because that's right in line with everything I believe. It's right in line with what I just said just a few minutes ago. It's totally what I believe, that we should adopt and educate the children who are already here instead of procreating. That's what I believe as a person. And so Anastasia is amazing. Anastasia is just such an amazing, wonderful person, such a kind person who cares about children and animals, so many things. And with that being said, there's one other thing that you should know. Anastasia also plays chess. I told you I would get to the chess portion of this video, and I always keep my promises. So, let me switch back to desktop view, and I'm going to show you a game. I'm going to show you, let's exit out of the queer tab, and this is a game that I played with Anastasia. This is a game I played with Anastasia. I hope that you can see it on your screen. let me just double check here. Yeah, okay, there we go. So this is a game on chess.com that I played with Anastasia. They also play chess, which is just super amazing. Besides being like the perfect person in every other way, they also play chess. How weird is that? How weird is that? So let me show you something. I played Queen's Pawn. They played Queen's Pawn. And then I did the Queen's Gambit. Now the Queen's Gambit is where the there is a sacrifice on the queen side of the board. After both sides have moved their queen's pawn, white plays c4. And it is at this situation in the Queen's Gambit opening, which is a popular chess opening, where black, currently played by Anastasia in this example, has a choice. They can either choose to accept the gambit, where they capture that pawn, because they can capture that pawn, or they can decline the gambit and play something else. So here's what Anastasia actually did in this game. It's an amazing game, and I've looked at it many times. So they accepted the Queen's Gambit. They accepted the Queen's Gambit. And then I moved my king's pawn forward 2 spaces with the idea of then capturing back the black pawn with my bishop. And then Anastasia moved the knight out. So then what I did is I captured that pawn. That's what I did. So then Anastasia moved the knight there, which is a solid move. That's actually a very good move because it's threatening my weak square next to my king there, that pawn. And then what I did is I moved the queen right there. And I did that because I was attacking the weak square next to the king here. That's what I was doing. My bishop and my queen were both in line with that that weak pawn there, the f7 pawn, the most dangerous area there. And then Anastasia attacked my queen, and at the same time was defending that spot. And I'm like, well, that looks like a good move. It looked like a good move to me at the time, but it also looked like a good move to Anastasia. But there's only one problem with that. When Anastasia moved that knight there, they forgot that my bishop is in line with that square, and I captured the knight with the bishop. So that's the problem. That's where I gained the advantage there, right there. That's what happened. And then Anastasia did a smart move by blocking my queen from accessing that square by moving the pawn forward. And at the same time, that also meant that my bishop was in danger. So then what I did is I moved the bishop back, move it to safety. I don't know, there's other places I could move the bishop to, but I moved it there, and then Anastasia moved that pawn. So then what I did is I put Anastasia in check with my queen. And the king had to move. There's no way to block this particular check. So the king had to move. And then my bishop went down there to get out of harm's way. Anastasia played that knight here with the idea of attacking that pawn there on d4. And then I moved the knight to defend that pawn. That's what I did. And then Anastasia moved the knight there. And I see what Anastasia was trying to do. Anastasia was trying to fork my king and my rook. And then what I did is I defended that spot by moving my knight. That's what I did. And then Anastasia moved that pawn 1 square forward. And presumably, I think the reason they did that was so that my bishop wouldn't come to b5 and put them in check from that direction. That's what they were probably doing. But then I moved the queen there. Honestly, I don't even know why I did that. But hey, it's not a bad move. But then what happened is, then Anastasia attacked my bishop. But because at this time I was in an advantage position, what I did is I moved the bishop there and checkmated Anastasia. That's the Queen's Gambit accepted central variation Alekhine system. And I did not know that was a certain variation or system. I did not know that. Those are just the moves that Anastasia and I played in this chess game. And that was a good game. And because of the specific location where both my bishops were, the king could not move to d6 or c7 because my dark squared bishop was in line with that diagonal. And the king could not capture the light squared bishop because my queen defended it. And the king certainly couldn't go back to where it came from because the queen guards it. So that was a game where I checkmated Anastasia. That's what happened, and that was a great game. So here's the thing is, Anastasia doesn't play chess very often, and in fact, I miss playing with them. They have important things to do. Pro-life activism, animal rights activism, they have a lot of things that they do. But if you look on their profile here, it's 9-0. I beat Anastasia 9 times in a row. Let's view the games. Let's see here. So these are, the first game was December 6, 2023, and the most recent game was January 21, 2024. Wow, 9 games in a row, and I beat them every single time. So now, Anastasia is going to see this and want their revenge. So, this is the thing about it. I have an idea. I have a really, really cool idea. Anastasia, should you watch this video, I have a little question for you. How would you like to accept my offer for me to try to coach you in chess? Because I think that I'm good enough that I could probably teach you some things. And I think we could even have that be a part of some of our podcasts. If we do more Zoom recordings or StreamYard or whatever, we could do something. We could work out the technological side of it. I would love to play some more chess with you and also give you a chance to seek your revenge. Maybe you will beat me at chess one of these days. And in fact, Anastasia did come close a few times to beating me. But I won 9 times in a row. That's the thing about it. So now, with all of that being said, because that was a good game example, there is one other thing I want to show you in this stream, because I actually want to play some chess. Rather than just talking about what's queer and responding to my new follower here, and thank you again for following, Femboy. I also want to play some chess and show you something. So I came up with something. I came up with a chess opening that I call the Queer's Gambit. And I did this. Let me show you. I'm going to go to the Light Chess analysis board. I'm going to go to Light Chess. I'm going to go to the analysis board here on Light Chess. Another great site to play chess on. And I'm going to show you the opening that I came up with that it's called the Queer's Gambit. And here's how it starts out. Here's how it starts, okay? So both queen's pawns move 2 squares forward. It's the closed game. And then here we have the Queen's Gambit. So this is the Queen's Gambit. Okay, the Queen's Gambit is a well-established chess opening. A lot of people use it. But here's what happens if if black declines the gambit by guarding this pawn with this pawn. That's called the queen's gambit decline. So, yeah, this is interesting. So here's what I call the queer's gambit. So then, seeing that black has declined the queen's gambit, then white captures and then black captures back. So we've had an exchange. Both sides have lost a pawn, but then white plays the queer's gambit. I call it the queer's gambit because this is weird. This is a weird position to find yourself in. So it's the queer's gambit. I'm naming this opening the queer's gambit, okay? Because it's weird because what you're doing is having failed the queen's gambit and failing to get black to accept your free pawn the first time, you instead offer a second pawn, the second pawn sacrifice. That is the queer's gambit. That's what I'm calling it. I'm sure it has a different name. Maybe somebody else has come up with a different name, but that's what I call it. I call it the queer's gambit. So here's the fun thing is, then black, of course, can accept or decline that gambit. Black may decide to accept that. And if they accept the queer's gambit, then what does white do? Well, now you see, white comes here and attacks this square with the bishop, just like I did in my game against Anastasia. That's the idea, because the goal of playing the queen's gambit or the queer's gambit, in my personal opinion, is to make sure that your bishop can attack this square. So now what is black going to do? Well, what black does, well, that depends on who my opponent is. There's a lot of things that black could do. And let me give you an example of what might happen. What might happen is black might decide to come here and put the king in check. And this is also queer because it's extremely weird. It's a weird position to find yourself in. And there's options here. One method is to move the king. Another method is to block with the knight, but then the bishop can capture the knight. Another method is to move the bishop and block, but then the bishop will kill my bishop. What if I don't want to lose my knight or my bishop? Well, then I'm going to call this the queer's gambit chastity variation. The queer's gambit chastity variation. Okay, this is funny. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the king. And I have two places I can move the king. I could go here, but I don't want to move there because I don't want to block the queen. Remember, I need to get my queen out into the game. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the king right here. Now keep in mind, this is a weird position to find yourself in. But look at this. Black doesn't have a way to put the king in check again. It can't put the king in check next turn, and there's this bishop out here. So let's suppose that let's just suppose that black decides to do something else. Like black might decide to move their knight out. It's just one example that could happen. Well, here's the fun part of this. The queen could come right here and put the king in check. Now, in this position, black has to make a choice of what to do. Black can move the bishop in the way, but that's a bad move because then the queen can come and kill this bishop. Black also has the option to put one of these two knights in the way, and the best knight to put in the way is this right here. That's the best move that black can play in this position of what I call the queer's gambit. The reason that's good is because it defends this bishop. That is the thing to do. But what if black doesn't do that? If black does something else, if black decides to say, offer a queen trade, for instance. That's just something they might do. Well, then white just comes along and they capture this bishop. Now, this queen can come here and capture a pawn. They can totally do that. They can totally capture this pawn. So let's say that the queen comes here and captures this pawn. Oh man, then that means they just fell into the chastity trap. What they did is they let me move this bishop here, put the queen they put the king in check, and then the king has to move. So it's going to capture the bishop, but then white will come and they will simply take the opponent's queen. So now in this position, you see how this goes. You totally can see how this goes. This is actually a really, really funny situation, because that means that white sacrificed 2 pawns and ended up in a situation of killing the opponent's queen, and white is set to win the game from this position. So that is the Chastity variation of the Queer's Gambit. So yeah, I made up a chess opening, guys, and also I heard a notification sound. So let's see what that's about. Okay. Yeah, from explaining to chess. I know, isn't that great? Yeah, isn't that cool? And we have a new first time chatter, Glowy T Gress. And if you see this here, since you see my screen, you see that I can read what everyone says. Anybody who comments anything will show up on my end on my screen, and it also shows up on the video itself. And Femboy said, from explaining to chess. Exactly. That, my friends, is how it's done. So let me switch back to my other scene. Here is my progress flag. There is my scrolling checkerboard image on each side there. Allow me to introduce myself officially for those who missed it the first time. I am Chastity White Rose, a transgender woman and a chess player who likes to educate people on LGBTQIA issues, but I also like to educate people in chess. And I decided that I'm going to be a chess coach, which is my latest crazy idea. And I just invented my own chess opening, the Queer's Gambit, based on the Queen's Gambit. And the best part is, I did it all in a live stream. I explained all that stuff from earlier about what it means to be queer. And now I just explained a really cool way to play chess. So, with that being said, I think I will try to play a live chess game. Let's see. Everything's gone well so far. So let's see if I can play a live chess game. Gonna go back to desktop view. And then I am going to I'm going to do a quick pair. I'm going to do a blitz game, because blitz, it goes 10 minutes maximum. Each side has 5 minutes on the clock. Let's play live chess here. Let's play a live chess game. Ooh, I'm playing as white. How cool is that? Ooh, look at this. We don't have a Queen's Gambit situation, but I'm going to capture that pawn. They gave me a free pawn. I see how this is. And then I'm going to move my knight out here. Oh, how interesting is this? This is some very interesting stuff going on here. Let's capture the pawn. That was interesting. They sacrificed 2 pawns. That's a little bit unusual. That's very unusual. Okay, let's try something then. Let's bring this bishop right out here. Let's try that. And pin the knight against the queen. Let's try that. Okay, there we go. There's that. And now it's time to get other pieces out into the action. So now that that's happened, let's try moving this forward so we can get the other bishop out. Let's try it. Totally going to try that. And then, what do I want to do? I think I'm going to come here and put my bishop right here, because that means the king can't castle. The king can't castle there, because this bishop guards this square. You can't castle through check. Oh, now we have 2 knights in a row. I have the option to take this knight or to wait till it moves and capture the other one. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move this knight right there. Totally going to do that. And just see what black does. Okay. Okay, I love this. I love this. Gonna come here and fork the queen and the rook. And black does that, but then I just captured the queen. I totally just captured the queen. Sure, I lost a rook in the process, but it's not all bad. Now I'm going to come here and put the king in check. That's just hilarious. Then I'm going to capture this knight. Oh, guys, this is super cool. This is so cool. Oh, man. So now it's time to come here and attack this knight. I am behind on time. I lost some time while I was analyzing the moves, but I captured my opponent's queen, so I should be in a pretty good position to still go on and win this game. Okay, hey, that's fine. I will capture that knight with my knight. Then there's the bishop. Okay, I will simply move my king to a colored square that that bishop can't target. It's not a bad idea. Okay, here we go. So now, what can I do here? I'm going to move this pawn forward. I'm just going to move that pawn forward so that my queen, there we go. Okay, this is turning out to be a very interesting game. Let's start getting other pieces involved. Wait, I shouldn't have done that. I should have defended the bishop. Oh well, I wasn't fully concentrated. But I'm still probably going to win this game, but I blundered earlier. I totally blundered there. Okay. All right, so here we go. Let's put the king in check this way. Let's do that. Oh, okay. Then I'm going to come here, capture this pawn. Okay, then I'm going to come here, capture a pawn, and put the opponent in check. It's not a bad deal. It's really not. Then I'm going to come here with the rook and attack that pawn. That's what I'm going to try to do. Oh, okay. How interesting is that? Then I'm going to move this pawn forward here. What do we even got going on here? This is just a very strange game. Okay. Then let's try. I'm going to bring this king forward. I'm going to totally just bring this king forward here. Okay, well, that's interesting for sure. Okay, I'm going to go right here. Oh, okay, there we go. What do we got going on? Okay, let's exchange rooks. Let's just exchange the rooks. I mean, why not? Why not at this point? Yeah, let's do this. Let's totally do this. This is good. This is funny. Even with a mistake, I still got a lot going for me here. Okay, capture the pawn, put the king in check. There we go. Then capture the bishop. The opponent, yeah, they can't capture my pawn with their pawn because it would put them in check. I'm winning, guys. I'm winning. Oh, this is so cool. This is so absolutely cool. This is great. I have 1 minute on the clock. It's time to finish this. All right, let's do this. Oh, yeah. Oh, I can't. Oh, I see how it is. There we go. Okay. And then, there we go. Let's do this. There we go. Let's start advancing up here. Let's totally advance. Black resigned. White is victorious. I had 18 seconds on the clock, guys. I had a plan. I was going to advance the pawn to become a queen. I was going to try to checkmate in those 18 seconds. Fortunately, my opponent resigned, saving me the trouble. Oh, that was the perfect game. That was just the perfect game. Oh, guys, this is great. Wow. Guys, this is so cool. This was a good stream. This was a very good stream, and I'm going to be sharing this to all my social media. Queer's Gambit. It's a sacrifice you make in your life to be your true self, whoever you are. But the Queer's Gambit is also a chess opening that I totally made up because I can. I'm a chess player, and I could teach you a thing or two in chess. So thank you for those who commented and followed me. There will be more chess content. There will be more chess games on my Twitch channel and other social media. So be aware of that. And you can totally find me anywhere you want. In fact, let me show. There's the link to my Twitch channel, and there is the link to challenge me on livechess.org. Consider it Chastity's Chess Challenge. And if you play a good game with me, there's a good chance it'll end up on my Twitch stream. So do that. So be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes. Have a good night, everyone. And play chess with me.